Good morning, it's Peter from the Garden Family. It's May 21st and I wanted to show you around our brand new garden. We're located in Southwest Ohio, Zone 6A, with a humid continental climate where we have cold winters and the summer really dominates of the other seasons with a short spring and a relatively short fall. We moved last fall from our smaller suburban garden to this property on 10 acres. And we worked hard throughout the winter to make sure we got the infrastructure done for the garden and that we could plant this spring. So none of what you're seeing today was here last year. Let's go through the different beds and I'll show you what we're growing. So in this bed here, we have our carrots, multi-sown beets, leeks, and red onions. This is the first year we're doing the multi-sown beets, and so far I'm not convinced it's better than the conventional way. But they're still growing and we'll see how they turn out. Let's go check out the lettuce bed. So these lettuces are the green butter leaf lettuce from Johnny Seeds, the Salanova type of lettuce. It's our favorite type of lettuce. We grew it in our previous garden and it's doing well in this garden as well. These were started from seed in late February and planted out about April 1st. And we find we can harvest them till about June 15th here in our climate before it just gets too hot. In the next bed, we have onions and peas. So this bed is predominantly yellow storage onions. We're trying the super sweet Utah jumbo onions this year. And we also have a row of sugar snap peas growing up a trellis over here on this side. The next bed is a mixed bed with mostly herbs. We've got quite a few things growing in this bed. One of the stars of this season has been these quickfire kohlrabi. It's our first year growing kohlrabi and I'm very impressed. I will definitely grow them again next year. Interplanted in the kohlrabi, we have rosemary, oregano, and thyme. We have 8 plants of rainbow Swiss chard of various colors, lavender that was grown from seed, various basils that were recently transplanted, dill, some of which is going to flower. Outside the bed, to make sure it doesn't spread throughout the garden, is our mint, which is potted in a separate pot. Let's go take a peek at the brassicas right here. So in this bed, we have a mixture of brassicas, some of which are doing great, some of which are not doing as well. Starting with what I would consider a failure of this spring garden is the broccoli. And while we are going to get a harvest, we can see the heads are pretty small and are already starting to spread out. I might do a future video discussing what I think went wrong with these, as well as some of the cauliflower we're going to see next. The dinosaur kale looks beautiful, and I think the cabbage is going to head up nicely. Let's go take a peek at the cauliflower. So we're growing a mixture of cauliflowers this year. It's one of our favorite brassicas. We have 3 varieties. We grew Snowball for the white cauliflower. And while this is doing slightly better than the broccoli, I'm not that impressed with how these heads are forming. Even though they're growing in the same conditions, the green cauliflower looks great with still vegetative growth and they're not forming heads yet. And the purple cauliflower has nice tight heads. So I think part of the failure with the white cauliflower and the broccoli is variety selection. Let's go take a look at the peppers. For our peppers this year, we are growing 2 jalapeno peppers, 2 Carmen sweet peppers, which is shaped a little bit more elongated like a standard pepper, but is sweet. 2 super crisp hybrid sweet peppers. They're shaped a little bit more like a bell pepper. And we're growing 10 poblano peppers, which is our favorite pepper to cook with. So far, these are looking very good with pepper growth already as of May 21st. Let's take a peek at the tomatoes right next to me. So for our tomatoes this year, we have 12 tomatoes in this 4x12 bed. And as you can see from this contraption we're looking through, each one of them is going to be single stemmed on these 8-foot stakes. I single stemmed tomatoes on string trellises in the past, and I did find in a non-greenhouse setting that the movement from wind caused a little bit of trauma with the string trellis. So that's why I moved to these stakes this year. If you're interested in how I built the trellis system, leave a comment below. Maybe I'll make a video on it. As far as varieties we're growing this year, we have an Early Girl, Margold, Cherokee Purple, Black Crim, 2 Mr. Stripies, striped German, big beef, 2 Brandywine, a Juliet tomato, and a new variety for us, Torino. Let's take a quick look at the squash bed. For the squash this year, we are growing them again in this 4x12 bed. And in the bed, we have 3 Dunja hybrid zucchini plants and 1 crookneck squash. One thing you'll notice on a lot of the beds is I have these hoops for row covers. These are made of EMT conduit, and if you're interested in how I made those, I'll try to put a link on the video. The reason I have hoops on my squash is I cover them when they're young until they are producing both male and female flowers. That way they're large and healthy before any squash vine borer moths can find them. When the cover comes off, I sequentially plant a different group that's covered and allow these to be open. That makes them susceptible to squash vine borer, but it also allows pollinators to come and pollinate the fruit. We've got another bed with eggplant and mixed warm weather crops over here. So in this bed, we have our eggplant. I started these really early. They got quite large. And despite that, they transplanted pretty well and we're already producing a lot of flowers and some small eggplant. Behind me, we have our cucumbers, which are gonna go up this cattle panel trellis, as well as a few basil plants. We have a green bee cherry tomato here that I'm going to cage. And then 2 butternut squash that'll go over this cattle panel trellis. 2 more raised beds to go, let's check them out. So in these beds, we'll start with the bed on my right, your left. On the far side, 2 butternut squash that will join the other 2 on the other side for that cattle panel. 2 Fuyu winter squash, which is a type of butternut. And recently direct sown 2 acorn squash on this side. We have a super tasty slicing tomato here and a super sweet 100 that I will cage in the middle. Backing up, this is the melon trellis. And on this trellis, we have 2 sugar cube cantaloupe, my favorite cantaloupe. And over here we have a Savour and an Arava melon. The rest of this bed is asparagus that was planted from crowns this year. It's all coming up very nicely, but we won't harvest it for a year or 2. We planted a few things in straw bales this year. Let me show you what we have. So in the straw bales, we are planting most of our determinate tomatoes. You can see each one of these beds that we have has 6 straw bales, and in each straw bale there's 2 tomato plants. So up front here we have determinate Roma tomatoes, and you can see these stakes. They're going to have a Florida weave to hold them up. And backing up this way, these have Paisano paste tomatoes, also determinate, and similarly will have a Florida weave. You can see 2 of the stakes are taller than the others. That's because I have 2 indeterminate tomatoes here, a San Marzano, and I believe the other one is a big beef, but I lost that label. The last few straw bales over here. So in these straw bales up front this way, you have a watermelon, and I allowed space for it to sprawl around. And then similarly, I have my sweet potatoes in these 2 straw bales. They will be able to sprawl out. And the nice thing about the straw bales, especially with sweet potatoes, is to harvest them, you just break apart the straw, no digging involved. Let's quickly look at the apple trees, and then last thing is just a few in-ground beds there, and we'll be done with the tour. These apple trees were newly planted this year from bare root. We have a Enterprise, a Golden Delicious, a Starkspur Arkansas Black, and up here is a Pristine. We get a lot of diseases on apple trees in our humid summers. So I chose all these varieties for their disease resistance. We do have 2 other mature apple trees that were already on the property, and we're excited to see what variety they end up being. Last part of the tour, some in-ground beds. So for these in-ground beds, on my left, your right, we have a row of raspberries. They were all bare root and are doing well. We have our sweet corn bed here, which was just recently planted out. And then we have 3 rows of potatoes. The potato varieties we decided to plant this year are Purple Viking, Satina, and Kennebec. Well, that concludes our vegetable garden tour. I hope you enjoyed it. We put a lot of work trying to get this garden going this year, and we still have a lot of new things that we're gonna add to it. We'll get a follow-up video probably in about 6 weeks for a midsummer update. If you enjoyed it, leave us a comment below and consider subscribing to our channel. Happy gardening, everyone.